What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and, of course, we don't roam spice fields around here. We go hops, and we got ourselves beer of the week, typically. So, first things first, I am Matt, the Duke of Cookout Milkshakes, and along with me is Lauren, the High Priestess of the Hop Fields. In today's episode, if you haven't guessed it yet, it's going to be about Dune, the movies, including the 1984 film, and then we're also going to talk about the book, which Lauren has read, book one. Only book one, but movie one and movie two with Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya and all of the great casts that are involved in making those films. So we're going to talk about those. If you are new to the show, we talk about what we've been reading or watching, what we've been drinking lately, some news, and then, of course, we go into our main topic. So best thing you can do is subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff, make the podcast grow. And if you feel so inclined, go patreon.com/HopsGeekNews and support the show. Everything goes back into it. For example, we do Cantina Hours. We recently talked about Fallout. We recently talked about the Wolverine and Deadpool trailer. Every week we kind of go live for the most part. And that's kind of what we roll into. So my beer of the week, without further ado, is called Robo Chacho from Bench Top Brewing. It's got a cool little Bronchiosaurus with a beard and glasses on it, but also has like a Robo like chinchilla type thing on it. Thought it looks pretty cool and fit the theme that we're talking about. It's a double IPA with coming in at 7.7%. It's got Citra. It's double dry hopped. It's got barley malts, white wheat malts, Vienna malts, flaked oats, flaked wheat, Galaxy hops, and Citra hops out of Benchtop Brewing in both Norfolk and Richmond, Virginia. I love that brewery a lot. Really good beers that they have there. So with that said, Lauren, what you drinking over there?
Okay. So I put a lot of thought into this one. I wanted it to be themed, and I haven't themed it properly in a while. So I have a Yacht Money from Sideward Brewing.
Dude, this is like the third week in a what are we? Okay, all right. Pause the show.
Every time I open the beer fridge and I have quite a few Star Wars beers, so I do have Star Wars beers. Every time I open the fridge, I just see it, and I can't not drink it when it's in there, and it's like I'm in the mood for an IPA. However, this makes sense this week because you see on the can, and I would say I'd post this on Instagram, but I'm sure I've posted it a million times. There's a little guy and he's floating in the water because it's yacht money, and there's money all around him. And in Dune, water is money. So you have water and you have money, and it's a little skeleton on an inner tube. And like, if you don't have water, you die. And I did put it in my Cad Bane glass, which takes place on this is when he was in the Boba Fett show, the Book of Boba Fett, which is another sand planet. So it seems that's what I'm drinking.
Oh, brother.
I would say this is last week, I promise, but it's bothering me last week.
All right.
I'll let you know when it runs out.
That's ridiculous. Just ridiculous. We don't have anything that we messed up on, but if you listen to any of our episodes, by all means, call us out. Say, hey, Matt, hey, Lauren, stupid. This isn't the right thing. This is wrong. Idiot. This, that, or the other.
Say it like Ren, you get bonus points.
Yes. Let us know. We're all about fixing our mistakes on this show. So by all means, call us out. However, let's go into what we've been reading or watching lately. This week's Nerd Initiative reviews from my end. I read Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. Excuse me. It's from Universal Pictures with Image Comics and Skybound Entertainment. Very good. The Creature from the Black Lagoon is back, and it's kind of about like there's some mystery going on. There's some murders happening in like an Amazonian rainforest. And essentially, the artwork is really fantastic, really well colored. You get a glimpse of the creature as well with bright greens, the way that they really detailed the forest around them. It's pretty good. And Universal, they seem to be doing really well with their monsters universe within the comic book realm. Dracula just finished up. Now the next one going on right now is Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. So that's what I did that one. And then DSTLRY actually dropped a little comic book called Spectregraph. It is from James Tynion IV and Christian Ward. Man, the artwork is out of this freaking world. There is like a
Christian Ward.
Dude, there's a panel where like one of the characters gets like zapped or whatever, and it's just like them like in a ghost, and it's like this very weird, cool. It's super trippy and super great. It's and James Tynion is excellent when it comes to the slow burn horror. Christian is just absolutely insane within the level of detail and the colors in his artwork. It's basically like a slow burn horror. This lady, she's going to go sell a house, which getting commission on. would mean astronomical things for her. She's kind of a single mom. She accidentally leaves her child alone. She was meant to bring the child on this with her. The child's an infant in its high chair and it's at the house. She gets there. There's like some weird, cult like things also kicking off. And so she's with this mysterious character. They're inside this house. They end up getting locked in this house. The ritual has failed, or did it? I don't know. I can't say. And that's kind of like the introduction. It's creepy. There's a creature that's like this fat, overweight creature with like its intestines exposed, and it's really good, man. I highly recommend that. And then the last thing that I actually watched this week was I finished season 10 of Supernatural finally, and I'm on like episode 5 of season 11 already. So I guess you can say I'm just kind of working my way through things again.
And so you've met the armorer.
I have met, Emily Swallow is in it, the darkness, if you will. Every time they say the darkness, I can't help but be like, I believe in a thing called love. And because
you don't know who the darkness is yet, do you?
It's Amora.
Right, but you don't know who she is.
No, she just, they keep flashing back to that scene of her and Dean in the smoke. And they're just like, what did you say to me? We're connected. Ugh.
Did you watch the episode Baby yet?
I don't think so. Is that
the one that takes place totally in the car?
No, not yet.
Oh, you're in for a treat. That's an amazing, amazing episode.
Is that episode 11 you were telling me about?
It's season 11. It might be like 5 or 6. I don't know what it is, but it should be coming up.
I've got to be close to it. No, I haven't.
That's
haven't
like
got there yet. No.
Everyone's top 10, and then Night Moves will be one of your new favorite songs.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm sure I'll get there here pretty soon, but I haven't really been up to too much since we last recorded. We just recorded on Sunday, so not a whole lot happening in the past few days. Lauren, why don't you go ahead? What are you reading and watching?
So the Sabretooth War continues in Wolverine number 58. That is going to be wrapping up in issue 50. This is Ben Percy, and Ryan Stegman's actually doing a variant cover for this run very soon. And then Micah posted a picture with Wolverine in his adamantium suit because he has lost his mutant powers because he was shot with Forge's anti-mutant gun. So that is where they are in the Sabretooth War in Wolverine number 48. I did the full review for that over on Nerd Initiative. And another one I did a review for was Wolverine Knights of Madripoor. This is only issue number 3, and this is by Chris Claremont. And it is a story that's off of X-Men from the 90s, issue 286. So obviously it takes place in Madripoor. The last issue, Wolverine and Captain America had their energy force sucked out of them by Bloodscream. So they're still recovering, and it's kind of funny because Steve looks like his before picture. And like both of them look like they're wearing their respective characters' pajamas because their outfits are very loose and baggy on them. And it's kind of funny. But Black Widow's fine. So this episode or this issue is all about Black Widow being her super spy self. So the three of them are fantastic together. Just Logan and Steve and Natasha are absolutely fantastic together. And their origin in the comic was that the two of them, Steve and Logan, worked together in World War II, and they actually saved Natasha. So it's like a very sweet bond between the three of them. The other thing I watched this week was The Ones Who Live, which is the Rick and Michonne show, and I really liked it.
Was it only one season? Like that was it?
Because I think so, because the way they ended it, that's how it felt.
Because I keep seeing like the series finale for the Rick and Michonne show, and I was like, oh, that's bold. So it was like a long drawn out movie. Instead of doing the movie with Rick Grimes, they just made it to a show. Isn't he like so? I guess we'll go into a little bit of spoilers because I don't care to watch it, but I also know I've seen TikToks and kind of like watched clips. Rick ends up getting saved by some like army or something, right? And they are responsible for something.
Do you remember the lady who lived in the dumpster area that had a really bad haircut?
Yeah.
Okay, so she still has a really bad haircut. It's just a different really bad haircut.
It was like Courtney Cox in Scream 2 or 3 or whatever it was.
She was in connection with this group who's in Philly, and basically what happened was the military got orders when shit really started to hit the fan to blow up cities. Rick saw it happening in Atlanta. They did it in New York because they were just trying to get the main cities, kill everybody because that was where it was spreading the fastest because everybody was in such close quarters. So one of these military dudes decides not to bomb Philly and to actually bomb the military instead. So they create this area where people are safe, and it's like a town and they can't leave, but people have to earn their place there. So if they find people, they're like, you can die or you can work for us for 6 years killing walkers and then move into this utopia. So, but they look for—
you got 6 years? What the hell?
You're safe in those 6 years. And then there's like furlough where you get to go into the city and see people and whatnot. Anyways, what happened in the TV show years ago was there was a bridge. Rick exploded the bridge. They thought he died exploding the bridge, but they never found his body. And like Michonne and Daryl would go out constantly looking for them because when that happened, Michonne was pregnant and Rick didn't even know. Well, she didn't even know yet at the time. So he had tried to escape multiple times, and the lady with the bad haircut was in connection with these people, and she calls him and she's like, hey, I have somebody. They saved his life, but then they put him to work. He escaped multiple times and even cut his arm off one of the times, which is actually really cool because in the comic,
the comic, he loses his hand, right? Yeah,
the governor cuts his hand off in the comic, but in this show, because they put a thing on him because he kept trying to escape, and so he chopped it off, but they kept finding him. And these are really, really not great people. John Locke is from Lost is in it.
Yeah, Lost. Yep.
But basically, Michonne in the TV show, before the show ended, she told Judith and RJ, her and Rick's son, like, I'm gonna go find your dad. And this takes, because then by the time she finds Rick, because obviously she finds Rick, she accidentally reveals that they have a kid because she didn't want to tell him until they were safe. And she says the kid's 8 years old. So this is how long Rick's been gone.
Holy shit.
But things happen. There is a lot of sex in this. They're constantly making out. But I absolutely love the two of them together. I think when you have two hot people that are super badass and have such mutual respect for each other, it's just amazing. And so I actually really liked this. And I started Dead City today because we still have AMC Plus. We'll see how that works out. It's the Negan and Maggie show in New York.
Oh my God. Everybody has a spinoff. Doesn't Daryl have one too where he's in like Europe or somehow?
Yeah, we'll see if I can get through that before my free thing expires.
Everybody's just out here with their arch nemesis or whatever. Everybody's fucking at the end of the world. I don't know.
Well, in the finale, Daryl's like, I'm gonna go for a little bit, and Carol's like, I'll miss you. Come back.
Oh, Carol's.
But the way that this show ended was a very Robert Kirkman ending, and I really, really liked it. If you enjoyed Walking Dead and you really like Rick and Michonne together, go watch this. You'll like it. It's good.
I watched clips on TikTok. That's all I did. So, all right. Well, let's roll into some news, man. I really only have 2 pieces of news this week. Number 1 is that Anne Hathaway has confirmed that the Princess Diaries 3 is happening. Yes, they are all very excited. They're coming back. Princess Diaries 3. We are going back to this world. I'm excited, man. One of my friends, she actually just watched Princess Diaries for the very first time ever. And I was just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, it took you this long. Granted, she's younger than I am, but I felt like that was a staple in everybody's lives. But I guess I was also asked at work this week, what was life like before 9/11? And then what was high school like in the 2000s? Because everybody, when I graduated high school, was like, I was 2 years old. And I was just like, oh. That was my first time being like, oh, fuck, I am so much older than all of these people that I am in charge of. And then I was like, come here, kids, gather around. Let grandpa tell you some war stories of what high school is like when you had your iPod Nano and your shuffle. And
we didn't even have those when I was in high school.
They were like, I remember did you have a cell phone? And I was like, yeah, I had a cell phone.
Yeah,
it was a flip phone, but I
had a beeper.
You don't know anything about the MySpace days, kids.
When we first started recording and you said you were 29, I was taken back. I was like, oh my God, he's in his 20s.
Well, my first thought was like, wow, this is how Lauren feels. But and neither here nor there. Yeah. So there's that news. Second piece of news is the Lord of the Rings extended.
Oh, yes. So excited
returning. That's what I'm talking about. That's the hype I need. Yeah. Returning to theater starting June 8th. Yeah.
Definitely going to be there opening night with my rings and everything.
That's right.
Do you have to walk on a treadmill while you watch it? So you can really feel immersed.
Actually, you should prepare for your half marathon by watching the extended edition of Lord of the Rings.
Oh my God, that'd be torture. It was a full marathon. Might as well be. So I don't really have any news. There's speculation going around that Invincible season 4 and 5 have been greenlit because they released this info in some sort of game. However, the proper channels have not confirmed it. So if you see that news out there, know that it has not been confirmed, but I would assume it will be eventually. The comic book's so big and the show seems to be doing well. That's all I have
no doubt that it is. Yeah, there is a video game. I don't really pay attention to Invincible because I'm not a fan. So I haven't really looked into it. But
it's better than Lord of the Rings.
Okay. All right. No, it's not. Whatever. We're not here to argue. Let's take
do more than walk.
They do a lot more than walk, man. They kill a bunch of orcs. They're fighting. Legolas is sliding on shields downstairs. Him and Gimli are a dwarf and an elf that are supposed to be at war with each other, but they can be best friends.
Did you start having an axe? You have an accent all of a sudden?
He has an axe.
I heard you got an accent all
I never thought I'd die side by side with an elf. How about side by side with a friend? I could do that.
That's so cheesy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh man, Battle of Helm's Deep, some shit.
With a friend.
Freaking it's great stuff. All right, well, so you want to talk about some great stuff? Let's go ahead. We're going to take you now after a short quick break. From our unofficial sponsors, we're going to go to a little planet called Arrakis. and we're going to dive into the Dune world, man. So we'll be back in just a second with some Dune. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I hope you got your sandworms ready. I hope you got your water suits ready. I hope you have all sorts of good.
You're ready to drink your own sweat.
Get ready to drink your own sweat. Don't pee. You better not pee. If you do, you better drink it. Get that water back. And let's go talk about Dune. So according to IMDb, Dune's #1, released in 2001, directed by Denis Villeneuve, a noble family becomes embroiled in a war for control over the galaxy's most valuable asset, while its heir becomes troubled by visions of a dark future. This movie features and stars Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica Atreides, Zendaya as Shani, Oscar Isaac as the Duke Leto Atreides, Jason Momoa is Duncan Idaho, Stellan Skarsgård is the Baron, and then you got a whole bunch of other people like Josh Brolin plays Gurney, and Javier Bardem plays Stilgar, Lisan Al-Gaib, and Dave Bautista also plays Glasu Rabin Harkonnen. So essentially, the Harkonnens made a deal with the Emperor, who is eventually going to be played by Christopher Walken, to take control of Arrakis and kill the entire Atreides family due to some weird visions with these high priestesses and whatnot. The film actually did really well, and IMDb has an 8.0 out of 10. Personally, I feel like it's a lot more. I watched this on HBO Max because it was there in that time period where it released same day in theaters and same day on HBO Max. I couldn't get to the theaters. I didn't really know a lot about Dune, wasn't too familiar with it, but I made sure to watch it. And honestly, I was blown away. So before we kind of dive into some bits and pieces about the movie, Lauren, what were your initial thoughts finally compare the book to the movie? Because you read the book.
No, I really liked it. It's the book's about 800 pages, but it does cover both movies. And it's a pretty, it's not a long read. Like the font's decently sized and everything. I really liked it, but I feel like I liked it more because I read it first, because I was a little hesitant, like, should I read it? And I was like, you know what, if I want to read it, I want to read it before the movie. But I felt like I had a better idea of what was going on. Like the Mentax, I think that's what they're called. Like, I don't think that I would have realized that that's what David Dastmalchian and the other guy were.
Oh, yeah.
Like their eyes just went up, and like those are very special trained people.
They're basically like computers.
Yeah, and they have like the special skill set. And like when the David Dastmalchian died, and in the book as well, his character died, he was like, oh, I need another one. And so that's why they kept the one guy. Now I can't remember if they kept him in the movie. They kept him in the movie. Didn't
he was in the first one, not the second one.
Okay, so then maybe they didn't. In the book, he keeps the other one around.
Yes.
But it isn't all that great. It backfires a little bit. But I have a bunch of notes I have notes all over the place. So I did think it was if you just want to bullshit back and forth, I thought it was kind of funny that Thanos killed Drax's family in Guardians of the Galaxy, and in Dune, Drax killed Thanos' family. So he finally got his revenge, I guess.
He did. This is good. So essentially what happens is that the Atreides family, they're rulers of the planet Caladan. How do you pronounce it? Yeah. He's assigned by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam to replace Baron Harkonnen as the fief holder of Arrakis, where Arrakis is where they harvest all the spice. So the sandworms are, they go out there, they harvest spice. It's the most profitable,
because they can't space travel without spice, which I thought that was really
exactly.
Whereas in Star Wars, the spice is just a drug, but they get high off of it too.
Yeah, they both get high, and it also like fuels everything that they do. And so essentially the Emperor becomes fearful of Leto Atreides' rising power, and so he plots for House Harkonnen to retake Arrakis, and he's aided by his Sardaukar troops. He flies in, destroys House Atreides, and then Leto is suspicious of the Emperor but weighs the risks against the power of controlling Arrakis.
It was like they always knew the shit was going to come down.
Well, yeah,
they knew
essentially
that before they
even
left Caladan.
Yeah,
in the book and the movie, they knew that.
Right, because Paul's out there asking him, like, why are we doing this? And he's like, it's our duty, all that stuff. And Oscar Isaac was amazing as Leto Atreides. I thought, it's Oscar Isaac, man. You can't go wrong. But kind of fearing that something was going on, they kind of made a peace with the Fremen, which is where Stilgar kind of comes in. And it's that whole funny scene where Stilgar spits, and they're like, to us, obviously spitting at somebody means a bad thing, but he's giving his water to them. And that's a sign of respect in this world.
Smart. Yeah, they had Duncan, and that's in the book too. They had Duncan go and become friends with them and get to know them. And that's the thing, this is a person. So it's interesting because like in the book, there's so much internal dialogue. And then in the
Yeah.
movie, obviously you don't have that, but I felt like they did a good job of dragging it out so that you understood kind of more so what people were thinking and feeling without that internal dialogue. However, in the 1984 one, they do the internal dialogue. And so, like
Right.
that one movie is the two books. And I felt like it's just so rushed and cheesy and not great. Like, I don't know how you would do like an internal dialogue like that well.
Yeah,
So
you wouldn't really be able to, because that's a lot of books. They kind of, well, it'd be just a lot of
I've heard
people
that issue with
talking.
Hunger
So
Games. I didn't read
yes,
Hunger
yes.
Games, and I'm not a fan of the movie, but I've heard so many people say the book's so much better because she's constantly talking to herself.
No, it is. I agree. I think the books weren't terrible. They're very young adult. The movies I didn't really care for.
I don't.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. A big driving factor also in this movie is that Lady Jessica is a Bene Gesserit. Now, the Bene Gesserit are essentially these sisterhood who they have these physical and mental abilities, and there's this like breeding the thing that they have going on, and they instructed her
They're
to initially.
secretly fucking all these people in power.
Yes, because she was instructed to have a daughter whose son
Yeah.
would one day become like the Messiah, essentially, and would both possess Bene Gesserit powers and also.
Right, they had the prophet that there will be a guy born of a Bene Gesserit, and he will become this Kaiswak, whatever it is. They had multiple names for it.
Yeah.
And she was supposed to have a girl, and then when she had a boy, they're like, "Oh, you just did this because you think your son's going to be the prophet?" And it was no, she did it because she loved Leto, and Leto wanted a son.
And this is before she went real crazy too. Like she was kind of crazy, Lady Jessica was, and she doesn't really go off the rails until the second movie. But she's definitely weird.
The life of water.
Yeah, the Bene Gesserit are weird. It leads to that whole scene with Paul Atreides going in there, like having to put his hand in that box, which is like,
yeah, but
painful, I guess.
But I thought that they did it really well in the new movie, unless I specifically say 1984. I'm referring to the new movie because they showed like
That's
her
the only one
pain.
I'm talking about too.
Yeah, she didn't want to put her child through that because she didn't know if he was going to be the prophet or not, and so she was terrified that that's going to be the last time potentially I see my son alive or whatever. But go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the test that they do for him actually tests his impulse control and his humanity, and that's why he passes. He ends up passing and everything like that. And so that's when her name's Mohayim, I think is how you pronounce it. She basically like insists to Baron Harkonnen to spare Paul and Jessica, and he agrees, but is kind of going behind her back because he plans to kill everybody, all the Atreides.
Right. He's equivocating. He's like, he's basically lying, but he's like, I'm not going to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the one that's actually going to kill them. It's going to be his troops. He's just going to leave out that information. And meanwhile, Paul is being trained by Josh Brolin and Duncan Idaho, like sword fighting. And I really liked Jason Momoa's character, Duncan Idaho. Like I knew nothing, again, about the Dune world going into this. So I didn't expect everybody to basically die within the first hour of the movie, right? Like you think everything's cool. I in my head, I was like, isn't there supposed to be some war or something that happens? And then it does. And to their credit, like the sound design was really good, I thought, with the explosions, and I thought the action sequences were really well done as far as the ships coming in and the battles going on. Duncan Idaho graciously fights to the death. I mean, the dude put up a fight. He fights like 8 people all at once, obviously ends up dying. But that was really cool, I thought.
Yeah, I really liked him in it. And I loved the relationship they all had with Paul, because Paul's only supposed to be 15 when this starts. And so they're still treating him like a child because he is. Yep. And also one of the big differences between the book and the movie is the movie all happens while Jessica's pregnant. Whereas in the book, Aaliyah is like 4 when the book ends. So it lasts 5 years. So Gurney shows up and Jessica's still pregnant. In the book, Jessica's got a 4-year-old. And one of the really sad things that they did was Chani and I'm sure they'll probably do this in the next movie. Chani and Paul have a 2-year-old named Leto, and that 2-year-old is killed by the Harkonnens. And obviously Chani is devastated and is mourning the loss of her son. I don't know why you're smiling. I feel like there's something you're trying not to say.
Oh, there's a lot, especially when it comes to Dune Messiah. Trust me.
Okay, I haven't read Dune Messiah. I think I'm gonna read it. I was gonna wait until like closer to the next movie.
Dune Messiah is when shit pretty much gets really weird.
Okay, yeah, don't say anything else because I don't.
That's where like the whole thing is. Would you love me if I was a worm? Kind of comes from. So you'll understand eventually. It's
never
Dune Messiah
heard that. Oh
my! Dune Messiah gets really freaking weird. But yeah, so obviously they took some liberties. They didn't introduce Paul's sister really until Dune 2, basically. But in the meantime, like the Fremen and everybody, they all negotiate with Stilgar, and they're gonna go ahead and be all friends and stuff like that. And that's when Paul and everybody kind of get away after the Atreides house falls and gets away. And Leto gets killed essentially and becomes the prisoner of the Baron, and then eventually gets killed and all that kind of good stuff. And
I was like, whoa, Oscar Isaac is naked.
Yeah. That's a whole weird scene with the Baron who's like really freaking. That was my first introduction to the Baron, and he was like, "Ew, what is this?"
But I thought it was interesting that they did strip him of his clothes because they want him to be as vulnerable as possible. Like, you can't move. You're like, you think you're royalty. Like, they literally took everything from him. But was also interesting in the book that I'm kind of glad they didn't do in the movie was in the book, they have it planted where they try to make it seem like Jessica was the traitor. And so Gurney, like Duncan Idaho gets drunk one night and like yells at her and calls her a traitor, but then he like sobers up and he does die saving their lives in the book as well. But Gurney, after 5 years, when he sees Jessica, he tries to kill her. And Paul's like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, she's the traitor. And they're both like, Paul's like, no, it was Dr. Yu. She's not the traitor. And she's because she wasn't. She loved the Duke. The Duke was a little bit of a dick in the book, though. Like, he would be a dick and then he would be nice, and he would be a dick and then he would be nice. And so I kind of like that they made Oscar Isaac just nice in the book.
Yeah, it's since they did just do a lot of things different, but I think they worked. Like, they basically drop Paul and Jessica off in the desert with some supply. Yao or Yu goes out there.
Yeah, he had still suits and everything for them. He gave them a true fighting chance.
Yeah, which is
I mean, he's still not a great guy.
No, he wasn't great, but he gave them a fighting chance. That's basically where they get met up with the Fremen. She uses her voice powers. It's kind of the first time you see her use her voice.
Jedi mind control.
Essentially, that's all it is, right? And Paul does Spice, which is his first time he has visions of himself leading this holy war across the galaxy in his name. And that's where he first becomes like really terrified of like taking any sort of like being a leader, which we lean more into the second movie. But the first movie basically ends up with them getting in with Stilgar's Fremen tribe, and Paul battles Jamis to a duel of the death.
I think Jamis was a bigger dick in the book.
Probably.
That's an interesting one. Well, he was what?
No, I was going to say he wasn't so bad. Yeah, I mean, he was kind of a dick in the movie, but I don't know about his book counterpart, so you can speak more to that one.
So in the book, he's kind of just more obnoxious, and you find out he has like 2 kids, one of which isn't much younger than Paul. But what's interesting is in the book, when he kills Jamis, they all respect it. Like, he killed him. Like, when they go and meet the other Fremen, like, nobody is giving him any, like, there's no animosity towards Paul. It's just like, this is what it is. He challenged him. Fair game. We brought his water back, whatever. However, they're like, here's Jamis's wife. She can be your servant or she can be your lover, but you're responsible for her kids. Oh, so that was kind of and he's like a 15-year-old boy, and I was like, okay, servant. And she's like, I'm still young enough that you can do whatever. But she actually ends up becoming the nanny for Aaliyah. So she ends up like and yeah, it is a very interesting dynamic. Like, weird, I feel like there's so many rules for the Fremen in the book. But one thing I did like in the book and the movie was when Stilgar's like, you have to kill me so you can take over. He's like, that's stupid. Why would I kill one of my best men? Like, what does he say? Why would I break a blade before I go into war? So that was in the book and the movie. And I really, really like that. Like, break those ancient customs that are just fucking stupid and you're only following them blindly because it's like that's like one of the things in legal stuff to argue why this should be the way it is because it's always been. That's not a great argument.
No, so like in the military, that's the biggest thing we see too. Is like, this is how I was treated. This is how you're going to be treated. This is how it's always been. It's like
called generational trauma.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, well, why are we doing it this way when there's a better, easier way like that? We don't all have to be angry and work as hard and everything like that. And they're like, oh, people don't want to work anymore. It's like, well, no, it's we've grown up basically kind of making it so where we have to force ourselves to grow. We've taught ourselves in a way. And so we've always had to learn like that. We've always been told problem solve. And we've been given the tools through technology. Mm-hmm. And we do it. And then like the older generations are like, no. But it is very interesting with Stilgar that he's very much rooted in his ways. While some of the Fremen are buying into this, like Chani also doesn't really fully buy into the whole Messiah concept thing. Mm-hmm.
Paul doesn't either.
No, Paul doesn't. He's also like, he doesn't believe that. He's like, no, why would one person lead? And then he also has had those visions, which takes us into the second movie, which just came out this year. Honestly, man, like it was so damn good. I went opening night, saw it in theaters. Like it is.
I paid $25 on Prime.
But it's worth it. Trust me. It is so good. So this is kind of where Paul is seeking his revenge. And again, Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin's in it. Austin Butler makes an appearance. He's now in this one as Fade Rotha. Florence Pugh is now in this as Princess Irulan.
Okay, so
Dave Bautista's back. Christopher Walken here is the Emperor. But yes, that's kind of our cast for this one.
So Florence Pugh as the princess, I actually really like that. And I almost wish that they had brought her in the first one just with the voiceover, because at the beginning of every chapter, it might be all, some of them might be a little different, but almost the beginning of every single chapter, there's actually a line written by her, and it says from Manuel, or the Manual of Muad'Dib by the Princess Irulan. So she's got little quotes, and so she wrote some book after Muad'Dib and all that, because he's supposed to marry her. But that's and so in the book, though, Chani is mourning the death of her son at the same time she hears Paul propose. So it's like this poor girl is like,
oh, I didn't know that. That's wild.
Yeah, like the child had like, she's, and Paul in his head is even like, she's giving water to the dead, referring to her son.
But in the book, she stays with him, kind of, doesn't she? Like,
well, that's where it ends. That's literally the last, that very end of the book. And what's actually really sweet, because Jessica and Chani, you even see it in the movie, there's a little bit of friction between the two of them.
Oh, definitely. Well, Jessica starts to get really crazy, though.
Well, also the mother of sons, they're so fucking weird.
She's very creepy.
Daughter-in-laws sometimes. Anyways, so at the very end, though, Jessica says to her, when in the history books, us concubines will be referred to as wives. So I think it was like, look, I was a concubine. I get where you're coming from. Duke loves me. Paul loves you. So
he does. Like, even in the movies, like, I will love you as long as I breathe. They have a very cute romance going on through the early parts of the movie. Stilgar is hilarious. Like, Stilgar carried the movie. Javier Bardem is so good, man. He's hilarious. Everything Paul does, he's like, Lisa Malakaib. And he's just like, we'll drink some water, or Paul will do the most mundane thing. And he's like, oh, there he is. And it's hilarious. Big question, though, is how do they get on and off these moving sandworms? Like, we saw how they get on, but how does, like, Lady Jessica, who's pregnant as fuck, and this whole entire tribe of people get on these sandworms? And how do they get off?
Maybe that's why they have her in the thing. Maybe it's just like a tuck and roll, and they just, I don't know. Maybe it's the same thing as like when you're skiing on a boat and you just got to jump off. I don't know.
But those things are pretty big. You're just jumping off. You're dead.
I don't know. It's funny, in the 1984 one, they're like really, really controlling them, and they have like all the worms up at like the city, and they're just like, hey.
So I want to know, to work.
Do they have an endless supply of the things that call the worms? Because they just keep putting them out, and then the worms like eat them, and then they just like these things aren't small.
Like, again, I really like the sound design with that, though. When it pounds into the sand, like, I liked the sound. But they must have like an endless supply, because they're always calling worms, and then just have more on deck.
So Dr. Kynes, actually, I thought this was, I really liked this character, and I was hoping we were going to see more. So when he, in the book, died, I was upset, and then I knew it was coming in the movie, and like I wanted to see more of her in the book. So what's interesting is Dr. Kynes in the book is a guy, and she's Chani's dad. So I kept waiting for them to say that she was her mom in this, and they never did. So I don't know if that will come to light later, but I like the history of Dr. Kynes. So if you do get this giant book that I got at Target, so the actual story is only 800 pages. And then when it ends, there's like an appendix, and it gives you more information about Dr. Kynes. It gives you some background information about the planet. It describes some more of the technical terms and the like words in different languages and what they mean. So it's actually kind of cool. I did not go through all of it because I had movies to watch after this. But if you want even more info to dive even more into it, get the book, read the book. Even though we're spoiling it, it's still fun to read. There's so much, and it really goes into it. It's slow, but it's entertaining, much like the movie.
Well, yeah, this movie is good. Jessica, I guess really her downfall in this movie is she drinks the water of life, which is fatal for males and untrained women. And at this point, she inherits the memories of all past Reverend Mothers. And it also prematurely awakens the mind of Alia, which allows Jessica to communicate with her, which is very creepy because there's just like random shots to a fetus, and it's just kind of weird. Like,
And then she's
interesting.
talking to her. So in the 1984 one, they actually did cast a little girl, and I was like, this is actually that is the one thing.
Hilarious in that movie.
She is, but it's the one thing in the 84 version that I really wanted in this new movie. They did a flash forward to where
Anya Taylor-Joy is the sister. She gets 3 seconds of screen time in this. Yeah, it's Anya Taylor-Joy. She's in like the menu. She's playing Furiosa in the new Furiosa movie coming out.
Is she in New Mutants, or am I thinking of somebody else?
She was in New Mutants. Yes, she was.
Is she
I forget who she plays because I've brain
She Colossus' sister? Aliana.
Maybe. She's got like the weird eyes. She looks like Sid the Sloth from fucking Ice Age.
Aww. Oh,
I'm
she's
sorry.
pretty.
That's me. Anyways, yeah, basically like she starts talking to her and she doesn't respect Paul until Paul declares that he only intends to fight alongside the Fremen. And Paul and Chani fall in love as Paul immerses himself in the culture, learning their language, becomes a Fredekin fighter, rides a sandworm. He's raiding against Harkonnen spice operations. There's some really cool sequences where Zendaya's shooting down, with the boom, shooting down their ships. Harkonnen releases his nephew, replaces, Drax. Sorry, Dave Bautista.
Oh my God, the Harkonnens, they were all bald and creepy.
Well, yeah, this is when Fade Rotha comes in. He basically harvests women or people to feed his women.
I don't even know what's happening. He
has like
murdering
all
people.
The black in his, he's just a murderous, crazy person.
Like,
and for his birthday,
tank.
He fights somebody who's not high on spice in front of the crowd, and he's like, "Thank you, Uncle." And then he ends up banging the one priestess who becomes pregnant with his kid.
She does that on purpose. That's all in the book, and it's more meticulously planned in the book. And like, she's not talking to the Ben Gesserit. Her and her like partner are discussing it. And she's like,
I was going to ask you. Okay.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want you to do this, but I know it needs to be done. And like,
so essentially, it's
it's
to ensure that somebody comes out on top, right? That's why they do it.
It's like the bloodline is secured.
Okay, because it turns out Paul is a Harkonnen because Lady Jessica was a Harkonnen, which is a big twist I didn't see. Was that in the book too?
Yeah. Oh, and he says,
I guess they wouldn't have changed something that big. Yeah.
He doesn't kill the uncle in the book, though. The uncle is killed not in the book, like he's killed like off screen or whatever, and he kills the cousin, and he says like, "Hello, cousin." So yeah, but no, it's known he's a Harkonnen in the book. But they even ask like, "Oh, did you know before?" He's like, "I didn't know till later." I think he finds out when Jessica finds out when she drinks the water of life.
Yeah, she does, and she pretty much tells him, and then like honestly, man, Timothée Chalamet is a badass actor. The way he like commands the screen from these scenes where he goes in there, he flips the switch on a dime. He's basically like, I am your messiah. Follow me into battle. Let's do this shit. They go into battle. It's a badass dope because he gets the nukes. Well, they end up finding Gurney, and he's like, all the nukes are here, man. And that's when Chani starts to be like, yo, what the fuck, dude? And then
that's not in the book.
Yeah, and Paul's like, I'm not going to use him, I swear.
They're taking down like the Harkonnen equipment and they're saving it. So they're like collecting it and getting it on their own. They don't just like come across a gold mine. So
not in this. Paul gets nukes and he's like, I'm Vladimir Putin now.
So I do have some fun facts, but before I go into basically. So the 1984 one, if you do want to watch it, is on Max. If you like Dune, it's worth going back and watching just for like the laughs. There's a weird sea creature in it. It's super gross. So Paul in that is Kyle MacLachlan. If you just watched Fallout, that is what's her face's dad, the main guy.
Yes.
He's in Sex and the City. He is Daisy's dad in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
He's in a lot of stuff, yeah.
A bunch of things, yeah. So he was 25 at the time playing a 15 or 16-year-old, and the Jessica in this in real life was only 13 years older than him. Al from Quantum Leap is Dr. Yu. Patrick Stewart is Gurney Halleck, so I thought that was actually pretty cool. However, what's funny is I looked up, I'm like, how the fuck old was Patrick Stewart in this? Because this is 1984.
79 years old.
Right. He had one strip of hair and it was completely gray. He was 44 in this movie. So, boy, how people have age. There's some people like
younger than I thought, to be honest.
Or not Martin Short. Steve Martin.
Steve Martin has been gray since he turned 30, I want to say. He's been that white.
Looked 60 for 50 years. Now he looks
the
great.
Same age as he did in the 70s. If you're watching like Only Murders in the Building, my dude has not aged a day since he was 31 years old when he turned 60.
The Mentats in this movie had really bushy eyebrows. That was like their
Ew.
trademark. It was I don't know why. There was a random dog that Paul's holding, and at one point Gurney's holding the dog while fighting. The dog had nothing to do with the plot. There's no dog in the book.
There's
I
no
don't know what the
dogs on this planet.
I feel like it was like the director's dog maybe, and he was like, "I want my dog in the movie. Can you just hold the dog for a
One
scene?"
day a
I don't
dog
know.
ran on set and he was just like, put it in, keep it there.
Yeah, then they kept calling Leto Lido. I thought that was interesting. Jessica was very hysterical, despite the Ben Gesserit being very calm. In this movie, Paul's like, "I'm gonna go where no woman can look when they take the water of life, because it takes a true man." He didn't say the rest of this. He said the beginning part, but it was like it takes a true man to to actually look at these dark areas in the life of water. The worms actually look more like Sarlacc in this,
Yeah,
and
they do.
Chani at one point has her hair down. It's very 80s. It's very like lush and like very 80s.
She
And
used product in an area that has no water and no conditioner.
yeah, 100%. She was just teasing her hair and everything. This was the whitest movie I've ever seen. And the only reason I think I really, really noticed was because there's one black person at the very end in a crowd, and it is the most light-skinned black person ever. But in the newer movies, there's a lot of Hispanic people, there's a lot of black people, but like you're on a fucking desert planet. And all
Not
these
everybody's
people
white. It's like when
are
people
as
say
white.
Jesus was white and he's like a Middle
Yes,
Eastern guy. It's like, there ain't no way, brother.
but they're not even white. They're like white, like live in
They look
somewhere
like
where
me,
there's
who has
no
never seen a day of sun
sun.
in their life. Yeah.
And it's like if you're living on a desert planet, there's not enough sunscreen in the world. You need a little bit of color. And like Chani is Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn from Ace Ventura.
Oh my God. What?
So that was interesting. And what was really funny is at the end, because it's the 80s, you're gonna have this like happy ending. It rained.
It rained at the end on a desert planet?
Yep. Happy ending. It rained. Okay, here's some. Why don't you read the fun facts, and then I will wrap it up with some of my Star Wars nods.
Well, before I want to talk about real quick the really cool fight scene that we got between, Paul and Fade, because like it was dope.
Oh yeah.
How that was like a really quick fight scene. And the thing that I loved most was they didn't use any music in this fight scene. It was very raw, very brutal.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, there was no music in this fight scene. Austin Butler's a psychopath. He stabs Paul. Paul basically lets himself get stabbed so they can go for the kill shot. Kills him, stands up, and then he uses the same words on the Bene Gesserit lady. He's like, silence. And that's when he asks for Florence Pugh's hand in marriage because he offers to not kill the Emperor. To which Chaney's like, bro, you literally just told me you loved me as long as you breathe, and now you're asking for marriage. She's like, what the hell, man? You just became everything you promised me you wouldn't. And it's very emotional because you feel for her. She's off doing her thing. And that leads us into now, which is going to be Dune Messiah, because all the other factions come to back the Emperor, and the Emperor calls him off. And Dune Messiah is about to get real trippy whenever they have that movie come out. But some fun facts. This is based on the book by Frank Herbert. The first book is 800 pages. It covers the first two films, which are out now. Denis Villeneuve wanted to make this movie since he was 14 years old when he first read Dune. Filming occurred in Wadi Rum, Jordan, which doubled for Arrakis. The Liwa Oasis in the United Arab Emirates also served as a key backdrop for Arrakis. The film cost $165 million to produce, and it took 3.5 years to make, actually. They did a lot of really good practical effects, which is something I really respect about this film as well. In 1979, there was actually a Dune board game. While working on Blade Runner 2049 with Hans Zimmer, Denis talked about his dream of making a Dune film. Zimmer immediately hopped on, as he too was a big fan of the book. So it kind of organically came about a long time ago. Timothée Chalamet did not even have to audition. He was handpicked for this role, which I thought was I cannot.
It was really good, yeah.
So good, man. And then a personal fun fact of Lauren, her mom saw the book on her coffee table, told me she remembered her mother reading it, and she was also a big Doctor Who fan. So Lauren's grandma was also a geek.
I forgot I threw that in there. Yeah. I thought that was really cool. My mom's like, oh, your grandma read that book. I'm like, of course she did. That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah. Well, as we wind down our Dune talk, great movie. I loved it, man. This might be the movie of 2024 is Dune 2. We'll see.
Well, I don't know. Bullshit. Deadpool and Wolverine.
You're right. All right.
No comparison.
That's right. Everybody was like, this is the movie of 2024. And then I completely
until July.
That Deadpool and Wolverine come out in July. And based off the trailers, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. Dune, You had your moment.
Second
You're gonna
best.
Dune's gonna win all the Oscars because comic book movies are not made for Oscars. In that I respect, Dune deserves to win all the
Ones with Hugh
Oscars.
Jackman in it are.
Dune deserves to win the Oscars, but the movie of the year is going to be Deadpool and Wolverine, probably. However,
Nope.
lead us into our next episode, which our next month-long Star Wars month is on deck. So next week begins our Star Wars month. Lead us into it.
So obviously, Dune did come out before Star Wars. Star Wars, George Lucas must have read this book and clearly got some inspiration from it. You got a sand planet, you got worms. They really look like the Sarlaccs, and you got spice, which does get you high. You also have an evil emperor. They use scum in the book. The Bene Gesserit use a Jedi mind trick. And then I'm going to wrap this up by reading from the Book of Dune. I feel like I'm reading from the Bible.
Okay, time out. You're going to remind me right now of when I was in GalaxyCon. Every panel, there was a guy. He didn't ask a question. He basically got up there and he was like, I'm going to read you a passage from this book and I want to know how you feel about this passage. And he would read a passage from a book and he did it. I was in like 4 different panels and this guy appeared at all different panels. And so by this point, like the host kind of was like, oh boy, here we go. And this guy would read like from a page. That's what that reminded me of. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Okay. I've been cutting you off a lot today. I'm really apologize.
No, you're fine. I don't think you have. Maybe I've just been talking today. Okay, so here is a passage from the book. Paul said, quote, "There is in each of us an ancient force that takes and an ancient force that gives. A man finds little difficulty facing that place within himself where he taking force dwells, but it's almost impossible for him to see into the giving force without changing into something other than man. For a woman, the situation is reversed." So that reminded me of the Force. That's it.
The Force, may the Force be with you.
These things are so ancient within us, he then says, that they are ground into each separate cell of our bodies. We're shaped by such forces. You can say to yourself, okay, ... Maybe they should be called midi-chlorians. I don't know.
Oh, brother. Yes. Well, Star Wars month is coming up, man. We got a lot. We're going to be live May 2nd, 8 p.m. Eastern. We have a special guest joining us where we're going to talk about his awesome works. And then also we're going to be talking about The Bad Batch season 3, as that has finally finished at this point. And we're going to talk some Star Wars. And then from then on, man, we're going to talk Dark Disciple. So Asajj Ventress.
Yes.
And
Kyber
then
crystals.
Kyber crystals, crafted cores is due to come on. If you don't crafted cores, look into them. They make kyber crystals that are made for your Savvy's lightsaber. So your lightsaber right here, mine does too.
Where the hell is your thing? Where's your stick?
I haven't unpacked it since the Orlando trip. I just had it sitting here behind me. But yeah, your Savvy's lightsaber has a core inside of it, and they make crafted cores so you can change out your cores interchangeably, which is really cool. So we're going to talk with them. Dudes, we got a whole big month planned for you guys. But the only way you're going to be able to stay tuned is by subscribing to our YouTube channel, following us on social media at Hopsgeek News. That's where you can keep up with us. Lauren runs the Instagram. I run the Twitter. We both, mostly Lauren, do the TikTok business. And if we have a Facebook page, if you want to join us on Facebook, just search Hopsgeek News. We're there. And man, we got a lot of good stuff. Star Wars, you know, that's my bread and butter. That's my love. That's my life. That's my baby. The Phantom Menace is returning to theaters this coming weekend, May the 3rd. Free Comic Book Day is Saturday, May 4th. Do not miss out on Free Comic Book Day. This is a chance to get your local comic book shops, man, and you get to just nerd out. And it's on Star Wars Day, so go find a brewery, go find a Star Wars emo night. I don't care what you got. Go to a Star Wars event. I'm going to go to a Star Wars event at a brewery this weekend. I can't freaking wait. I'm going to be pumped. I'm going to bring my lightsaber. Going to hang out with some friends. We're all coordinating outfits. They're looking like they're going to get some Jar Jar Binks shirts. I found a Taylor Swift Luke Skywalker 1977 shirt off of her 1989 album I wanted to get, but it wouldn't get here in time. But man, it's going to be awesome. Follow us on social media. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We will see you guys. May the Force be with you all. Cheers.